Happy game day weekend. It is Super Bowl weekend and I don't root for any team. We never grew up on any professional team for football or any other sport. So I am representing my college sport today and we are gonna make a cauliflower buffalo dip. Most of them have amazing ooey gooey cheeses, but just to make this a little more fun, I'm gonna make it a vegan friendly buffalo cauliflower dip. For those of you curious, no, I am not vegan, but we do keep a fairly dairy-free house. And so for me, cooking a vegan cuisine is kind of a challenge. The textures, using alternatives, trying different things. So this is a take on veggies don't bite recipe. I always have a recipe as a guideline, but I normally adjust everything and barely follow it. It just helps me with proportions or taste buds or any tricks in the recipe. So we're gonna start by cooking a whole head of cauliflower in the oven, about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees Celsius. So I'll cut this up. I'll even use the stem, just not the leaves. And we're gonna add about 1/4 of a cup of Frank's Red Hot Sauce. So this is your key to anything good buffalo sauce. So the best part of Super Bowl is really the appetizers. Maybe that's why I'm there. Appetizers and halftime show. So while you wait for JLo and Shakira this year, let's get started with some buffalo dip. So the cauliflower went into the oven for about 20 minutes or so. Again, I'll check on it just to make sure it's evenly distributed and not burning in one place or another, but I did use the stems. I really like to make sure we utilize as much of the vegetable as we can and not be wasteful. And now we're gonna talk about the sauce. So into the sauce today, the recipe called for 1 whole potato, as well as some onions, and then it called for white beans, and it called for soaked cashews. So being alternative and only working with what I have in my house, we're gonna actually do chickpeas, just like we did earlier this week for a fun recipe. So these were canned and I just drained them. And then I did use 1 whole potato and I boiled it, making it soft with the onion already boiled as well, and a turnip. Why not use another white root vegetable to make it nice and creamy? And then we did soak the cashews, and in the recipe it calls for cashew milk. So it's been a little while, but I brought out the almond cow. So already with the soaked cashews, I saved about 1 cup of the soaked cashews going right into my almond cow. This is gonna make fresh cashew milk, so we'll see how it goes. I bought my almond cow right before I moved here, so I did buy international plugs for it. So good. So it works on its own. You put the whole raw soaked nuts into a little case and it goes into water and it creates a nice frothy milk, and then you're left just with the cashew meal. The almond cow works on its own timing system, so you just put it in, plug it in, and it'll keep going. It'll tell you when it stops, but it grinds and grinds, it may pause, it grinds again. There are great recipes online for almond cow, so now we should be left with some fresh cashew milk. I've just noticed with the almond cow, it's always a little thinner, but the flavor's still there. So about a little over 1/2 cup of cashews just made this much milk. So again, saves you a little time, saves you a little bit of money. And then if you're home, you can make any unique milks. I've made almond, macadamia, oat. You can season it with a little bit of maple syrup or vanilla. So we're gonna put this aside. So this is gonna help with the creaminess. So again, we have our soaked cashews, I'll write it all down, our drained chickpeas, and then cooling from the boiling, I have my whole potato, 1/2 turnip, and some onions. While the cauliflower is still in the oven, we're gonna work on the rest of our sauce. So again, everything you saw, soaked, drained, pureed, goes in with a little bit of garlic. You can use fresh garlic. You can use the glassed already minced garlic, whatever works for you. So we're gonna put this directly into our Kitchen Ninja. Again, I kind of measure, but this should be about a fourth a cup of the cashew milk. I'm gonna grab a spoon. Everything goes directly in the blender. If you're like me and my blender kind of has a love-hate with me, I may do this in shifts just so my blender doesn't attack me. So we'll start with some of these softer ingredients and work our way up to the chickpeas. Loving this consistency. Again, taking time with your Kitchen Ninja, but man, see, once you take it out, you have a nice, creamy, smooth consistency. I did not need to add any extra broth or any extra liquid. It is suggested sometimes that you do, but we are gonna add our favorite ingredient, a little bit more of the buffalo sauce right into our cheesy alternative dip. Our sauce is looking good. So now our sauce is ready. I'm gonna add it into a glass bowl or glass dish that will go directly into the oven. Once our cauliflower is ready, look at that consistency. That's what you want, like pure cheesy gooiness. The potato really makes it creamy. Super excited with how the cashew milk turned out. So let's hope the flavors are just as amazing. All those last bits and drops. Our cauliflower is hot and ready out of the oven. You do not need it to cool, but just be careful. We're gonna layer it back into our dip before we rebake it. So, again, just wanting to make sure it's nice and crispy. We're gonna layer this all sauce included into our sauce, into our glass dish. This will go back into the oven for about 15 minutes. We'll lower the temperature to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius. I am practicing my Celsius. Whew. So this goes back in. We'll mix it up just slightly. We want to make sure it's nice and thick for a dip. Put this down. Again, the cauliflower is already cooked, but it has a nice crispiness on it, but we still want it to kind of toast up a little bit with our sauce. So we're gonna mix this in. Nice and thick. Right back into the oven. And then I'm gonna take you through a few other options for dippers. So of course you always have your carrot sticks, any sort of vegetable, but we're gonna toast up a little bit of pita with some garlic olive oil. Into my pan just goes a little bit of olive oil, some minced or chopped up garlic, and we're gonna heat this up first before we layer in our pita. I've just split the pita in half. These are the, I think, whole wheat 90-calorie pitas, so whatever you have on hand, whatever works for you. And we'll put them right onto the stove. Again, we wanna heat up the olive oil first, heat up the garlic second, and then we're gonna layer in our pita. Another great option, which I found in the market. I love Wassa crackers. I miss them. So Wassa crackers, another great option for dipping as well. People love these. So whatever works for you, layer it. Let's see what happens once we get this dip out of the oven. Ta-da! Our dip is ready and out of the oven. I'm very excited. I let it stay in there a little longer than the 15 minutes. I wanna make sure it's nice and thick. Looks beautiful. I really love the colors. I think it looks just as original and classic as the buffalo chicken dip. Just as thick and perfect. I'm sure this is gonna be way too hot. Should I risk it? I love it. I love it. I'm so excited. I always wondered how people like took a bite of the recipe and like looks so good and would be like, while I'm over here like, making a mess. So anyways, we're gonna grab our pita. You can put in the oven or off the stovetop. Ooh, perfectly crispy. I wish you could smell that. So again, just a little bit of garlic roasted with the olive oil. You can put in the pan, you can put in the oven. You can have the dip straight from the glass dish. So here is your vegan cauliflower buffalo dip, just in time for the Super Bowl or for any other occasion. Hope you'll have an amazing weekend. I'll be sharing this recipe here, IGTV, YouTube, on my blog. Come and find me. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for Veggies Don't Bite for your recipe and giving me kind of a guideline for this awesome dish.